Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me this morning on Conversations with. Today I'll be speaking to David O'Brien from Big and Small Mosaics. He is a mosaic artist that has a real passion for what he's creating in his studio. He has a vast array of amazing pieces of work, which shows different areas that he's passionate about. So you've got sport to music icons. So the sport is particularly the motor racing, which we'll get to see some of the work that David has created in the studio. So when I was researching David, I read that he was actually inspired by, or his passion for mosaics was ignited by a visit to the Gaudi Park in Barcelona in the 90s. But rather than me tell you his story, let's get David to join us now. So I'll just invite him on. He should be joining us shortly. That's it. Good morning.
Hiya, Sammy.
How are you this morning, David?
I'm good, thank you. You okay?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me this morning and welcoming us into your studio.
No, you're very
So,
welcome.
are you ready for me to kick off with some questions? I have
Definitely.
my trusty notebook, so if I keep glancing down, it's because I just don't want to get my questions all muddled.
That's fine. No problem.
So,
Can you see me and hear me okay?
I can hear you. You're a little bit misty though,
Yeah, no, I think, I don't know.
but we can still see you.
Sorry.
But
Sorry, you
that's
can
all right.
see me.
I can still see you.
All right. I don't know
I thought you were going for that artistic sort of like
the
smoky, blurry look.
the filter. No,
Yeah.
definitely. No, I don't. I think it must be something wrong with my. I think my camera's not particularly good, but let me see if.
I think we're all right.
Yeah, I think that might be a
Can we have
good.
a couple of thumbs up if everyone can see David okay and hear us both okay? All right, so let's get started. Can we have a little bit of your backstory of where, I mean, I said like in the 90s you went to Barcelona and you saw the Gaudi Park. Can you just give a little brief history of
Yeah,
where you started from?
yeah, pretty much. That's where it kind of stemmed from. Through school, I was not particularly. I was told actually not to do GCSE at art. Um, I always liked art, but was never particularly good, say, at pencil drawing or at painting or the kind of traditional school methods. So I was really steered away from that, but was always kind of quite good at technical drawing. So the technical side of things, I could kind of draw to scale or copy things to a certain
Mm-hmm.
degree. But really from school, art side kind of went quite quiet until my first trip to Barcelona, which was in the early 90s. And one of the things we were going to see was, we were going to have a look around Gaudi's work. And at Park Güell, I kind of just almost fell in love with it, had my own kind of moment there where, for whatever reason, I'd never done anything with tiles, but kind of just felt as though I kind of understood. I understood why certain colours and, even it was actually standing in front of the big bench looking over Barcelona, which lots of people will kind of probably have been to. But that's where it was when I was looking at this bench and the different shapes and the different colours that had been used. And there was just something there which kind of ignited something in me to say, at some point, I'm going to give this a little go and see where it goes, because I felt like I understood it for some reason. Came back from Barcelona and done absolutely, nothing about it for a long time, really. But I'd always I was thinking about it and I started researching it. And it was years later, really, before I kind of, had a go at making some mosaics. And it just really went on from there. I've probably done an awful lot of studying before actually create, making the actual physical mosaics themselves. But that really, in essence, is the backstory. I just sort of, going through that park, it was just mesmerizing. But it wasn't necessarily the whole park, because obviously creating something like that's an entirely different sort of class in itself. But it was more just the detail, the curves, how you'd used tiles for curves, and made something so essentially beautiful from a material that is so essentially really difficult to do that with. So that's sort of where it stemmed from.
Yeah, I find it really surprising that your art teachers weren't that sort of like encouraging of you, because when I look at your work, and when you first look, you have to do a double take to realize that actually it is tiles that you've created the pieces out of.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I think teachers need to be really careful of what they say, because it could have been that you didn't look at art at all.
Yeah.
Totally. So when you left school, did you go on to college to do technical drawing, or further your career that way?
When I left school, I became a surveyor. So I would use then technical draw. Again, I touched on the technical drawing side of things. So essentially, if I was drawing with a ruler and I'm drawing with maths, is how I kind of see it. I was quite good at that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I could have been completely put off, and I was put off really, because I was actually told, don't take this as a GCSE because you won't pass it. Now looking back, I think, to some degree you were right, because I couldn't, if you put some flowers in front of me, I would have difficulty in drawing those particular flowers as a physical piece. But if you'd given me, say, some of those flowers, a picture of them, I could have perhaps worked it out using, again, the maths, using the scale, etc. But that it wasn't an option at that time. And we're going back a while now, unfortunately. It was all in black and white, I think.
So if we come to your pieces of work, and I saw on an interview you did previously, you were talking about Andy Warhol and his work. Can you explain a bit more for us about that?
Well, again, just, Andy, like he is probably to so many people, he was just one of my favourite artists. The range of work that he'd done. But I've kind of touched on this before. I also, like you mentioned before.
Oh, we've lost your sound. That's it. Yeah.
So, but the connection with Warhol, it wasn't just obviously, the soups and the music, but it was the motorsport, the car that he painted at Le Mans, which is I think it's the most expensive motor car in the world at the moment, because he painted it. But it was just, again, it's the diverse, you mentioned like some of the diverse like interests of mine, and it was his diverse interests as well, and also in trying to perhaps make some of the things that he's known for, it works really well as a tile. He's known for pop art, and the tiles really kind of they can add an additional kind of pop almost to his work. So it just really transfers well into mosaics, or I've found that anyway. It does for me.
Absolutely. I like the fact that with his work, like you say, there's such a diversity in what he's producing, and I see that in your work. It's not the same old, you're using your talents and your skills and your mosaics to produce the piece, but you don't have like a portfolio of all the same. Your portfolio is very diverse, and that's what
Yeah.
I love too. I love having the freedom. I've got my skills and to use my paints and my multimedia, but I don't produce the same piece 100 times over.
Yeah.
And I think when I was at school, the teacher always used to say, you have to have a style, you have to have a theme, you have to. Who says?
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, again, coming back to the Warhol piece, obviously, when I I've only been doing this really with some seriousness for 6 or so years now, but I'm kind of developing my own sort of skills in terms of what I've recently done. I think it was maybe 12 months ago now. The Campbell's can, I made a 3D version of it.
Mm.
So it was a full kind of almost it was a sculptural mosaic as a 3D. And then on from that, I thought, well, what else can I do here? So I then
Mm.
made another one where it was actually almost like an impossible piece of art. So the can was, on a tilt with the
Mm.
soup pouring out as a mosaic as well. I'm just always really looking to develop and push a little bit. And as you say, it's finding what you're comfortable with and finding your own, my own style.
Absolutely, because every time you produce a piece, I imagine it then takes you to the next level of your own learning
Yeah,
and growing and developing.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, I'm totally self-taught. So, other than YouTube or books, I've done
Yeah.
no college or anything like that. Literally, I'm learning as I kind of go on, and I'm trying to refine it as I go on, and using different skills. Some things work, some things don't. But that's kind of the beauty,
Mm.
really, of it, because you tend to know if it works because you can see it with your eye, and if it doesn't, you just start that particular bit again. So.
Mm. I just love it how generous you are with some of the short videos you do, that you're quite open to sharing your
Absolutely.
process and how
Totally.
you do things. And I've found that with a lot of artists that I'm speaking to on these conversations with, they're all very generous like that. And when you get an artist that says, "Oh no, I can't show you this or I can't show you that," you sort of think, "Well, actually, I'm not interested in your work anymore now."
Yeah, no,
You
of
know?
course, of course. But again, I know mosaics have been around for a long time. The process is essentially, get some tiles, cracking them up and sticking to things. There's not too much you can kind of really hide. Um, some of the, it's just literally, it's a case of trial and error, and as you'll know, or for me, it's whatever actually looks good at the end of that process. And what looks good for me might not look good for somebody else, but there you go. That's art.
Mm, mm. When we talk about your process, when you're cutting your tiles, it's not just smashing them up in a bag and then spreading them out.
No,
Everything is done with a purpose.
yeah, definitely. I always try and work. Depending on the piece that I'm working on, I tend to try to go for the most difficult part of it. I'll look for what's the difficult part, because usually that tends to have the smallest pieces. And then from that, I'll think about the size of the pieces and
Mm,
how it goes around and how it comes together. It's probably something to do with my my OCD, but I couldn't, if I've got a small square, I wouldn't like a big piece there and then a lot of small pieces on the other
mm,
side. It's all
mm,
got to be relatively uniform and all got to flow.
mm,
And even within, say, if I've done a few Banksy girls with the balloon,
mm-hmm,
and I'll always try, even between the girl's hand and the balloon, to show some disturbance, if you like, to show
mm-hmm,
some wind
mm-hmm,
and a little
mm-hmm,
bit of wind, even in the white around the silhouette of the black
mm-hmm,
girl. So, so even though it's just essentially white tile, I think your brain almost sees a little
Yes,
bit
yes,
more.
absolutely. Yeah.
So
Um,
there's definitely thought in the size, depending on what I'm actually making as well. Rather than just cutting the tile up, I might use a tile cutter and cut, say, 2 centimeter strips, and then sort of triangulate them out. So everything is relatively, smooth and uniform.
we've got a question from Steve from Wacky Lance. He was asking about the portraits you do. Where do you start with those? How do you start? Because you've got some beautiful portrait work that you've done.
Yeah, so again, essentially, most of the portraits that I've done so far, I've done a couple of Marilyns, I've done a Bowie, I've done an Amy Winehouse, and I've done a couple of Bob Marley's. It's from an image, I'll use Pinterest, say, to find a
Hmm.
nice style or a nice image. Then it's just deciding on the size. And then it's really reverting back to what I've kind of said about working the scale out,
Yes.
working
Yeah.
certain points out, trying to get the outline to scale, getting a load of drawings, referring back to my phone, and then just starting to put those pieces together. But once you've got, say, the eyes and the cheekbone and the face right, the rest of it but it falls into place generally.
Those pieces are absolutely stunning, really stunning, and I'm still blown away that you say that you can't draw, but you but you produce these pieces of work. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, it doesn't make a great deal of sense to me as well, but there you go. I don't know.
But I think that's the beauty of being an artist is we all come from it from different angles, and art is very mathematical
Yeah,
in actual fact, and
yeah,
so that's where your part of the brain focuses in on that. Where for me, it's shapes. So if I was to do a still life, I wouldn't actually see a vase of flowers. I'd see all the shapes in between.
okay,
That's how I work it out.
yeah.
So
Well, I think you're right. I think what I tend to see is, or what I see is scale, and it's almost. If it, I think with some of my work, because it's, say creating Warhol's Marilyn in tiles, when somebody looks at it, I think you see it with your brain almost before your eyes, if that makes sense.
yeah.
So if your brain thinks, "Oh, that's actually right," then the person, then it's like the next step. And as you said, people have been confused, thinking it was a print or it's a painting or it's something else. But then
Mm.
when they realise it's a mosaic, it's going up and touching it, and it then becomes something else.
Mm.
People will go and rub their hands over them, which is great. I love that.
With your motor racing helmets, are you having to use a different type of tile? Because they seem to be, I don't know, they just look really expensive tiles. So
No, no, I've got one here actually. I'll show you one now. I've got one here right in front of me. Basically, no, it's the same tile. There's just a lot of preparation. It's onto a helmet. Um,
that
it's
is
onto an
stunning.
actual helmet, but it's just the preparation of the helmet. It needs a lot of rubbing down,
Hmm.
so the um, tiles can get a really good key onto the actual helmet, and then it's just a lot of adhesive and a lot of a lot of time to sort of bring it all together. But essentially, it's just
Wow, my goodness. But it
on a
is
helmet.
stunning. It is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. They're quite
The
nice
way
as
the
well.
light hits it, it looks like you've got like diamonds or something in it. It's just
Yeah.
stunning.
So that's just the angle. It's obviously all the angle of the cuts, and it's just getting the reflection from from
So
the lights.
the grout you use
Yeah,
to start with, is that the normal adhesive floor grout that any tiler would use, or do you have to purchase
just
special?
no. It's just what I tend to use is no. It's just an adhesive grout. So especially with the 3D pieces that I make, if I use an adhesive grout, just a white adhesive grout on everything,
Hmm.
I then get an extra layer of kind of security, in the mosaic. because then you've not only got the adhesive from the tile to the piece, but you've then got it between the pieces as well. So it just becomes ultra solid. I'll clean that all off, and then I'll decide what color I'm going to finish. And I've recently started using paint, actually, because you can the range of colors with grouts is relatively limited, and but the range of colors with paint is it's kind of infinite, really. So on some pieces now, I will actually use paint rather than grout, but it depends on the piece.
I think even with like some colorizers that you put in the grout, it's still not going to bring it to the color that you want. I saw one piece where you had I think it was the sculpture of the Campbell soup can, where you were putting the gold.
That's right.
Painting the gold. That must take a hell of an amount of time. So once you've created it and think, right, now I've got to paint this devil.
No, it's not too difficult, because if you paint it, say with the soup can, you'll almost paint everything, really, including the tile.
Right.
Then when the paint is beginning to go off, you will just lightly take it off the tile. It'll stay on the grout area, but it will polish off the tile, because that's what paint, it won't bond on the tile, it'll come off. So you just end up with a really perfect finish. And you don't need to just paint the grout. So I will cover all of the area.
Right, okay, cool. Steve from Wacky Lamp said he loves the Godfather poster mosaic, a perfect representation of Marlon Brando.
Thank you.
Current exhibitions and where your work is in galleries. Can we talk a bit about that and how you got your work into the galleries?
Yeah, I'm in quite a few galleries now. And I've not done an exhibition so far, but there's a couple of exhibitions, hopefully, which will come off at some point this year. There's a couple of galleries here which I'd like to mention. So I'm in CLK, Art Markers, Unicorn, Lions Gold, Gallery One, Heppel Stones, and then I've also had work in Rene's, Eton in Birmingham, Windermere, and also I've started dealing with it's a company called Vintage Hoyer over in Yorkshire, and they're a specialist tag hair dealer. Now they've got a couple of pieces in there relating back to the motorsport as well. So
wow.
So yeah, I'm in a few galleries now.
That's brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. And people can also come to you for commissions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you get in touch with me, if they've bought through one of those galleries before, I'll speak to them, but probably just point them back to that gallery. Or if they've not and they've got, it's from Instagram or from maybe a show that I've done in the past, then yeah, get in touch and we'll discuss.
Do you ever go to like the contemporary art fairs or anything like that to display your work?
I've done one a few years ago, just pre-COVID. I've done Chester Art Fair, and that was quite good. But that's actually, I think it was 2018, so it's 4 or 5 years ago now. I'm considering doing one maybe at the end of this year, possibly looking at Manchester, or considering doing one. But I'm speaking with a few galleries now about doing a kind of exhibition anyway. So we'll just see what happens. Excellent. Really.
So you'll put all that up on Instagram as soon as there's going to be an exhibition, so we can all come along.
I'll share it on Instagram.
And to support you.
Definitely, definitely.
When you go about designing your pieces, what is it that hooks you in to that piece?
I think I get hooked in before I've kind of decided what I'm going to start. I'm always looking and searching for ideas, or even things that I've made in the past, which I now think maybe I can just kind of tweak that a little bit. So I've fortunately or unfortunately got one of those brains really that just, it tends not to switch off. Something might come to me in the middle of the night, but it's almost with mine. Once I've visualized something and I can see the end of it, I know I can make it.
Yes.
Sometimes
Yeah.
the problem is seeing the end.
Yeah.
Um,
So are you similar to myself and a lot of artists? You've got a notebook by the side of your bed in case you
yeah,
wake up in the middle of the night.
yeah. Well, I tend to use the notes on my phone. My phone's terrible, and I get told off for being on my phone all the time. But I do say I'm genuinely, it's work, honest.
All right. So what else is coming up for you over the next 18 months? What have you got in the pipeline?
Just really to continue, Sammy, on. I'm just looking to continue developing, build relationships with the galleries, a little bit more work out, and just kind of spreading the word a bit. Just continue in that vein, really.
Okay, that's brilliant. Right, I always do just a quick fire round at the end of the interview.
Oh dear, go
So
on.
it's some of it's relevant, some of it totally isn't, but it just gets us to see a little bit more of you.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so number one, football or motorsports?
Oh, that's a terrible one. I've got to probably say, I can't football slightly by that much.
Creating your wall art or your 3D sculptures?
3D sculptures.
Okay. Favorite takeaway?
It's got to be a good curry.
The last Netflix binge you did?
I don't do Netflix. Never done it. I've never
No?
watched anything on that. Never watched anything on Netflix. I'm too busy in here.
Okay, from the school tuck shop days,
Oh,
blackjacks or fruit salad?
blackjack all day. Simple.
Beach or countryside?
Oh no, there's a good one. I like both at different times of the year, but probably beach
Beach. And
with the
I think
countryside nearby.
I think you've already answered this, but your favorite artist?
Yeah, you're right. Probably would be it'd be Andy Warhol, definitely.
And your
Or
favorite
you? No, it's
band?
you, Sammy. Actually,
Me?
yeah.
Oh, you're a flatterer. Your favorite band or musician of all time?
um, probably probably the Rolling Stones.
I love that album cover you did.
Oh, thank
Brilliant.
you. Yeah.
David, thank you so, so much for joining me today
Oh,
and
thank
for
you,
giving
Sammy.
up your time because I know you're so busy. I will put all your links in the at the end when I upload the video to
Okay.
Instagram and YouTube and everywhere. Wish you all the best for the coming months and let us know when your work is going to have an exhibition because
I
I
will.
definitely will make the trip past north of Watford to
Oh,
come and
thank you.
see.
Thank you. We'll try and
Unless
I'll
you do
try and get it
anything
down
down south.
south. Yeah.
Thank you so much, David, and we'll speak soon.
Oh, thanks very much, Sammy. See you soon.
No worries. Bye
Bye
bye.
now.
I think
Bye.
you need to flick yourself off.
I
You
will.
need to... Brilliant.
See you now.
See you, David.
Bye.
Sorry about that. I mean to say turn yourself off. That's what I keep meaning to say. Thank you ever so much, everyone, for watching. David is such a fabulous guy. Please go and look at his Instagram page and his Facebook page and have a real look at his work. I mean, it is amazing. And for someone to say, at school they were told, don't do art, don't follow art. I mean, his artwork is amazing. And for someone who says, oh no, I can't draw, and he produces such beautiful portraits, and I mean, I just love it. He's definitely an artist that I want to have a piece of his work in my home, so I'm saving madly to get a piece. But thank you ever so much for joining me, and I will see you next time when we're doing Conversation With. So see you later. Bye.